Do you like musicals? Well, I do. But there are so many mics, so many people, so many instruments. How do you even do the sound of a musical? Well, today we're gonna find out together, because I don't know as well. But luckily, I have a friend here at Tarantino Live, very special musical that's running in London right now, that's gonna show me around, show me all his gear, show me all his techniques, and we're gonna learn a little bit more about how this craziness works. I'm here with Jamie, the sound engineer for Tarantino Live, and I'm gonna make a bunch of dumb questions because I know nothing about live sound, and hopefully you entertain me with nice answers. How's it going, Jamie?
All right, thank you. There's no such thing as a stupid question.
Oh, that's good, that's good. Just tell us a little bit more about you. Where have you worked before? What's your background in general?
Well, I've been doing this professionally for over 20 years now. So yeah, I went to Lambda Drama School, and did a stage management technical theatre course, but knew that sound was what I wanted to do.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I went and did I worked for a small company down in Kent and did festivals, events, theatre, a bit of everything in the business, and learned all sort of different sides of it. And then I started working for Autograph Sound Recording, who are one of the biggest theatre sound companies in the world, probably, certainly within Europe. And I worked in their warehouse for a while, and then I went into the West End. And my first show, I was on the original London production of Mary Poppins.
Oh, that's cool.
And then I did 2.5 years as the deputy head of sound on Les Mis at the Queen's Theatre.
One of my favorite plays, by the way.
And then I spent 7 years of my life on Jersey Boy.
Oh, that's cool.
Which was an amazing show. Then I went off and did some freelancing and various bits and bobs, mixed a bit. It's been 7 years since I've mixed a show of this size and scale. It's a great show, but a busy show.
Yeah, it's really busy. If you watch it, there's a lot of character changes and people are speaking there and there and there and there, and the band's going loud. The band goes really loud on this show as well. Things are crazy. So when I watched it, I was very curious to ask him, how does he even do this? How many mics are you running here today?
We're running 14 mics for the cast, one for each cast member, and then we've got 2 brass players who have wireless mics, because obviously they're on stage and off stage. We've got 1 guitar in the pit, which is playing through a live amp, so that's mic. We've got keys, we've got 2 on stage guitars, who therefore have wireless pack. We've got a bass guitar, which is DI'd in the pit, and then we've got a drum kit with another 8 mics on it.
Jesus. So which mics do you use on a drum kit for a live show? Because I'm used to doing studio stuff.
Yeah.
It's usually around the same number, but in a studio you go a little bit more crazy with the room, with the overhead and stuff like that. For drums here, you gotta be a little bit safer, right? You gotta be...
Yeah, obviously the major difference between doing recording and doing live stuff is you don't have to worry about feedback. Yeah. Getting that nice open room sound and putting the drum mics a long way away is just something we can't do. Everything has to be close mic. Ben, who's designed this show, it does very similar to what I personally would do. So we've got 2 mics on the kick drum. We've got 1 inside the kick drum to get that click. Yeah. Then we've got 1 sitting right by the hole in the resonant head that gives us the real low end side of it, and then you can balance the 2 depending on what each song in the show needs. We do the same with the snare drum, so 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom, so you can balance up between the hit of the stick or the rattle of the snare. And toms, 1 mic on each tom. Okay. This kit, he's only got 1 rack tom and 1 floor tom.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Hi-hat, single mic on the hi-hat, and then 2 overheads for a left and a right. We do them as we're looking at the drum kit on the stage. It's not jazz style, it's not recording style where the vast majority of your sound will come from your overheads. Yeah. We're not trying to use it to get an all kit sound. They are primarily for those cymbals. Yeah, yeah. Because they have to be, because we can't get the game before feedback to do it any other way.
How weird it is that I just came here to talk about a musical, and being a band guy, the first thing I talked about were the drums. But anyways, you were talking about feedback anyways, and that's another question that I always have when I watch these shows. There's like 14 people, 15 people running around with these mics. They're little mics that go on your cheek here. They come to the audience, they run everywhere. There's speakers everywhere as well. How do you even manage this?
Those mics are very, very directional.
Okay.
And they only pick up from a very short distance away.
Okay.
Which is why we have booms that are stuck right on people's mouth. Yeah. Because that is the only way to do it.
Okay.
If you look at a more traditional theatre show, Les Mis, which I did at one point, you won't really see the mics anywhere near as much. You have omnidirectional mics because they sound a lot more natural.
Yeah.
They're hidden right in people's hairlines so that as much as possible, you can't see the mics. With a show like this, that just isn't possible because as soon as you put the faders up, it would just feedback like nobody's business.
Yeah, because Les Mis is a much stiffer show, right? People are standing and singing, they're not so...
Yeah, the primary difference is they don't come out in front of the PA system.
Okay.
That's the major difference on this show. I did Jersey Boys in the West End and we used Omni head mics. It was a loud show, it was a rock and roll show, and there were points where it was right on the limit of feedback, but because it was the cast on the stage, then the PA, then the audience, you could get that gain before feedback.
Yeah.
Our cast are walking off the stage, around the auditorium, directly under the main PA.
Yeah.
There's no way that you can get that gain before feedback off that sort of microphone. It means the mics are very obvious on everybody's faces.
Yeah.
You can't hide that. They're right next to their mouths. But it's what it needs to be to get that gain before feedback that's necessary.
Can you get away with a little more volume for the vocals with these mics?
A lot more.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, a lot more. The downside to them is they require a lot more EQ to make them sound natural because they are a lot more coloured in their sound. You know, an Omni mic will always sound a lot more natural than a tight cardioid will. That's the payoff that we have to play.
I see. And when you have the mics coming into your faders here, that's like a question that I always wanted to know. Do you leave your faders set up in a way that if you go crazy on them, they still don't feedback? Or can you still...
No, it is still possible to make it ring.
So you have to be aware of where you're going still.
Yeah, we are just about able to hit the top of the fader and not ring, depending on where people are stood.
Okay.
In the front of the stage, we have our front fills. The steps go right by the front fills, so there are scenes where people are walking past those. That will ring if we're not careful. So it does depend where people are. There are still points where I can make it feedback if I'm not careful.
Kind of have to be aware where everyone is at all times.
Yeah.
And you have to know who is going to sing and who's going to speak at all times. Do you follow a script or?
To start with.
Yeah.
Not now, no.
Now you know.
No, so it's in my head. You can't, when you're learning, you have to have a script because there's too much to know.
Yeah.
I need to know what everybody's saying, what all the band are playing, where all the sound effects are, and where all my desk cues are to make things work properly. There's no way you can learn that in a short period of time.
For sure.
But after about 20 runs through, you should be able to get most of the way through without needing that script.
And you're doing...
Because if you're reading it and concentrating on what you're reading, you're not concentrating on listening to it properly.
That's true.
So it will sound okay, but it will never sound properly good until you can just mix it and use your ears.
I see. And what desk are you using here?
This is one of Yamaha's fairly new Rivage PM3s.
Oh, that's cool.
It's the first time I've used this desk actually, and I really like it.
And it's fully digital?
Fully digital, yeah.
All programmable?
Yeah.
It has the motorized faders?
Fully motorized faders, yeah.
So having motorized faders, do you still have to ride the whole show with your hands? Yeah.
Yes. So the whole show is still mixed manually. If I don't put a fader in, you don't hear something.
Okay.
What it does allow us to do is to mix off of 12 control faders as opposed to trying to deal with the entire thing.
Yeah.
On a cue by cue basis, the motorized faders will tweak. Generally, at the start of every song, you'll have a new cue.
Oh, that's cool.
And that will say, right, in this cue, we're featuring a bit more of this guitar, a bit less of the brass.
Yeah.
And it will adjust those volumes for me. And it will say, right, okay, so this person's the lead vocal, so there's their level. And then right here are the BVs.
Yeah.
You're going to have those on 1, 2, 3 faders, 4 faders. You might have 4-part harmony. You might have 3 people singing each of those parts. You can get the balance across those 3 people programmed in and just have 1 fader for your bass, 1 fader for your tenors, 1 fader for your altos and sopranos. On this show, we're not to that level. Generally, it's backing vocals.
Yeah.
Or regularly, actually, boys and girls. Dogs and foxes, as they're called in this show, for the Reservoir Dogs and the Fox Force 5.
Oh, that's cool. I've seen online, on their social media, that the ensemble sings a lot from backstage as well.
Yeah.
Do they still use the mics?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's always the head mics.
Oh, okay. Because some plays, they use like a condenser mic in a corner or something like that.
It has been done, but to do that, then you need to think about all the sound bouncing around. sound.
Yeah.
You need a particular place for them to do that.
Yeah.
And this show, it's just not possible in this building.
So they kind of just choose a little room to go
a
in.
little space to go to.
And sing together. Okay,
Yeah.
that's very cool.
Yeah.
Because the mics are so directional and they are kind of colored, you have to EQ them.
Yeah.
What's like a standard vocal chain for a musical or for an actor in a musical? For example, in the studio, I usually use a compressor, an EQ, and then you can go crazy. You can put a chorus, you can put distortion, you can do a bunch of things. I'd imagine in the musical, you're probably just keeping...
We keep it a lot simpler. Yeah. We generally, it will be EQ. Obviously, there'll always be a high pass filter in there.
Yeah.
Then as little EQ as possible. On a show of this style where people are shouting lines, we have got compressors on some people to help a bit.
Okay.
But where possible, we try to avoid compressors on vocals as well. The compressors are my fingers.
That's cool.
That's, you know, that is the aim. The compressors are set very high.
Yeah.
And they are just a catch-all if somebody's shouting to stop it clipping.
Yeah.
They're not really, we're not using them in a creative way like we do in a studio.
Yeah. In the studio, I just smashed the compressors.
No. So
I'm going crazy.
We use it more on, particularly on the drum kit.
Yeah.
What you do to a drum kit in the studio and what you do to it live will actually be fairly similar.
Yeah.
With gating and compression.
Yeah.
And the way we treat the instruments is a lot closer than the way we treat vocals.
Okay. Talking about instruments again, you said you use an actual guitar amp in the show.
On this show, yes.
Why? Now in 2023, everybody's using.
I would love to know why. It's because the musical supervisor wanted the traditional sound of a valve amp.
Okay.
Generally, we use Kempers, we use Axe effects. The on-stage guitar is going through a line 6.
Okay.
And I am a guitar tech. I make guitars, I repair them, I'm a total guitar geek, and I love a valve amp.
Yeah.
But it has a time and a place, and a theatre show is not really it, particularly as the sound engineer. But it's set at very low level, it's got a power soak on it, and we have a backup of a pedal that has a very similar sound.
Oh, that's cool.
Because if the valves go mid-show, we're stuffed.
Did they ever go out in the middle of the show?
They haven't, and it's unlikely to happen. Let me hold something wooden.
Today's the day.
Yeah, thank you very much. It is always a possibility with a valve.
Yeah.
So therefore you have to build in that redundancy.
Oh, I see.
In the same way that the keyboard is running from main stage, there's always a chance that we lose the sound card, we lose main stage, the laptop goes. So we've taken a direct feed out of the keyboard itself. We're not going to get all the different sounds, but at least we can get a piano playing and an organ to make us through if we needed to.
I see.
So the whole thing that you don't have to think about in recording is we think of redundancy for everything.
That's true, because recording you can always stop and take an hour to fix it.
Wherever possible, we have a backup guitar sat backstage.
Yeah.
We've got spare packs, spare mics. The QLab that's running all the sound effects, I have 2 that run in parallel, and I've got a switchover box. At the push of a button, I can be on the backup.
I see.
The desk has 2 power supplies. As there will always be a point of failure. Yeah. You can't make everything redundant. No. But anything that has a high probability, then we have. Oh, I see. And we also, all the computer side of things has UPS backups. So if we get a power blip, yes, we'll have to stop the show because we'll lose the amplifiers and everything. Yeah. But we won't lose all the computers, so we won't then have to wait 15 minutes while we power everything up and get everything talking to each other. It'll stay.
And you have a lot of speakers here.
This has a lot of speakers on it.
How many? Do you know how many?
There are 12 main vocal speakers. Then there's a line array for the band system left and right. Then we've got front fills and some fills on the galleries.
So the speakers for the band and the vocals are separate speakers?
Yes.
I didn't know that. Actually, that's really cool. Why would they be?
The reason we've got 12 vocal speakers is for imaging. The band are up there, so a nice left and right system. It's got a lovely dispersion across the whole building. Yeah. That sounds right. Yeah. But the cast aren't stood in one place. They're moving all around the building. We move what speakers they're largely coming from around the building.
Oh, that's good.
So that if somebody is stood in the middle of the auditorium compared to somebody that's stood right up stage left, it sounds like they're coming from those 2 separate places.
Now that you said that, I have noticed that, but it was a good job by you guys because I was just was like, yeah, that person's there and this person's there.
And that's what it's supposed to do. You're not supposed to notice it.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't there, you would notice it.
It would be weird, right?
Because the sound would sound like it was coming from above the stage, and you'd have somebody stood 3 foot away from you talking.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't correlate.
And do you have to do that live, or is that kind of...
No, that's done as part of the programming.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, we have part of the desk programming changes which vocal group. So I've got 9, I think, vocal groups, which are 9 sort of rough spaces in the building where people are. So depending on each scene, we go, right, well, the cast are here, so everybody's coming out of this vocal group. That then feeds into a system called Timax, which we are using to a tiny percentage of what it can do.
Okay.
But that then takes that and creates even more spaces within the stage area and moves that imaging so it's really exact. If you take Timax to what it can absolutely do, and I'm sure that, and I don't know it that well, there's things that it does so much, I can only scratch the surface. But one thing they have is little trackers, and the actors can actually wear the trackers and it will track them live as they move around a space and in real time change what speakers they're coming out of.
That's crazy.
It's often used in big opera in the round productions and things, and the opera singers wear these trackers so that as they move around it sounds like it's coming from them all the time, but that's all tracked live. We're using a fraction of what it can do.
This show is kind of crazy with the sound effects. It has gunshots. It has, I don't know if you have blood sounds as well.
Oh, we've got people's heads being chopped off. We've got...
You got a flamethrower.
We've got a flamethrower, we've got whips, we've got people being slapped in the face.
Is that all you as well?
Yeah.
Do you have a soundboard somewhere? How does that work?
That's on this computer here. We're running a program called QLab, which is a Mac-only bit of software, which actually all the video content also runs from QLab, but a separate QLab system. I've got a simple go button that just gives me the next sound effect every time I push the button.
Oh, that's good.
Within that, you can then program what that does. So quite often when I do a sound effect, there's also a lighting effect timed with it.
Yeah. My
QLab computer sends a control message to the lighting desk and fires that cue. So the lighting is also sometimes fired by the sound operator.
That's cool. Do you fire some video as well?
Yes, there's sometimes where the video fires through. Sometimes the lighting desk fires the video. It's one or the other. And sometimes it's fired by time code. So with things that are timed to the music, we've got a click track of just a physical metronome. There's no recording. Everything is played live and sung live, but there is a click track for the band from a timing point of view, which also runs time code, so that then there are some sound effects that are perfectly timed to the music that are done from the time code, some lighting effects and some video. Some of the sound effects that are timed are sort of a cross between musical and visual of what's happening on stage, so that's all done live by me.
I see. You just have to watch everyone at all times and hope that they do the exact same movement that you're used to.
Or if it's live theatre, things go wrong. People get their lines wrong. So, you know, a lot of the time, the gunshots and things are supposed to happen on bits of script. But if something goes slightly wrong when the script's slightly awry, then I just have to watch for somebody taking this gun and going like that, and I'm going, right, okay, we're shooting them now, so go.
So your fingers just tense on this button, just like, oh God, waiting for it. I see.
And then I also have, for the sword fights, I have 2 buttons that are active all the time.
Oh, that's really cool.
So that one just goes swish and swoosh alternately, and the other one goes slash.
Oh, I see the labels there.
And I am watching their sword fight and just going, right, swish, swoosh, swish, swoosh. Okay, that's the killing blow, slash. And obviously I've got 12 faders to deal with at all times as well.
So for my subscribers, if anybody is interested in doing live sound specifically for musicals, is there a path that you can go to? Should you go to normal live sound school, learn bands, learn everything?
I think that within the whole sound world, everything feeds into everything else. The band side of it feeds into it, but there are ways of doing things that are very particular to theatre.
Yeah.
Having a good musical feel is really important to any type of mixing, so you get that from mixing bands.
Yeah.
But mixing a theatre show is a lot more involved.
Yeah.
There is nothing else I have ever done that requires the amount of concentration that this does.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing to learn. I don't think anything quite prepares you except doing it. But as a route in, you can go to drama school. You know, a lot of the major drama schools do technical theatre courses.
Yeah.
You learn everything about all the technical aspects of theatre, but sound is one of them. And having an understanding of what everybody does in the theatre,
yeah,
and basic theatre terminology and practices, it is really useful.
Yeah.
But otherwise, people go to their local theatres and start in Amdram and come up through that way and start just volunteering and working that way.
Yeah.
Getting shifts as part-time crew. There's lots of routes in, and I think what works for one person doesn't work for another.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, for me, drama school was a great thing, but I have friends that are excellent that tried it or just decided it wasn't for them and went another route of doing work experience and
I see.
And working at you know, everything works for different people.
I think you showed us enough. I'm gonna let you work and do your thing, and I'm gonna watch the show tonight. Hopefully everything will go right.
Let's cross those fingers.
Thank you so much, Jamie.
Brilliant, thank you.
I'll see you next time.
Thanks a lot.
How cool was that, right? Now I know a lot more about live sound, and I feel like I can hold a conversation with a live sound engineer and kind of sound like I know what I'm talking about. I hope you liked it. If you did, please press all the buttons around me in this world that help me. And don't forget, come and watch Tarantino live. There's only 1 week left, up to the 30th of July. So if you want to see some violence, you want to see some cool songs, definitely come. It's worth it, and it's definitely the best cast of people in one room ever. So please come, and maybe I'll see you here. Who knows? I'm coming a lot of times, so maybe I'll see you here. See you next time. Bye.